Hey, welcome everybody. Gary DiGrazia Sr. at eXp Real Estate, and today is session one, off-market probate home training. And again, I want to explain to you, all of you should have seen the video on the pre-training that we sent out to everyone that has registered. And it's kind of to open your eyes of what we're going to be doing here, why you should be looking at off-market probate, what is it has meant to my business over the last 30 years, and just it kind of sets you in the right tone to get into this training. Now, the training that we're going to be doing over these 3 sessions is to give you a foundation on off-market probate homes, or probate process itself, the players, how we do this, how we control the sales, everything you need to know. But what I don't want you to do is think that you have to understand everything while we go through it, because this is just to open up the opportunity to you. And then, as stated previously, we're going to stay with you once you get up and rolling. Your first order of business after you get through session 2 will be to start contacting the estate. And you'll be using our scripts and the flyers that we give you and putting them into your own words and your own branding, and trying to get appointments with these PRs, personal reps. And when you do, we're going to go with you on that appointment. Now, if you're in the Bay Area, really anywhere in the Bay Area, Central Valley, we're going to go with you. As mentioned, we have about 90 network agents with us right now that are all in different stages of learning probate, and some that have been around 3 or 4 years with me. That includes SoCal, San Diego, and all over California. So chances are, if you get an appointment, don't worry about it, because we should have somebody close that will go with you if I can't personally myself, because you're out of the Bay Area or Central Valley. But not to worry, because we will prepare you at the worst. If you're out of area and we can't get anybody there with you, then I personally will prepare you before you go and what to do. So, and then we're going to hold your hand all the way through that listing or that offer that you're taking to the estate, and get that into escrow and help you through escrow. I have a TC that would be available for most of you up here that handles all of our probate transaction paperwork, who's very good, a broker in her own right, and does probate herself. So we have a lot of things available to you. 3 title companies that I have used, some of them for 30 years, the other 2 for at least 15. They know my system, they know what we do. We'll plug you in, they have some tools. So this is going to be very exciting for you, for those of you that actually grab the ball and run with it once we train you. So right now, what we're going through is just foundation, okay? So don't freak out if there's something there that you don't think. Now, what I want you to do is, when you listen to this, go ahead, because we had some audio problems with the live training this week, so we decided just to record it now, so you'll have a good copy. You can see the slides, and you can have great audio, and this will be your reference that you'll be able to put in your database under your off-market probate training, file, and then you can revisit this as we go. But most of what we do is going to be once you're in a deal, okay? So all you're going to get out of these 3 sessions is your foundation of what you need to know, and then how to get out of it and start making appointments with estates, how to get your leads and everything you need to go. All right, so before we get actually into the system, I want to just kind of re-clarify for those of you that have not seen the pre-entry video we sent out to everybody, just to give you a little bit of my background. Again, Gary DiGrazia Sr. I've been around the real estate business for 43 plus years now. Wow, long time, right? Of those 43 years, the last 30, since 1987, actually 30 plus now, has been with probate and trust homes that I've done off market. The first 13 of those, from 1987 to 2000, I was just a buyer. Yeah, I had my license, but I was just coming out of a recession in 82, 83 that wiped me out with all my rental properties that I had purchased. I had 8 plus a real estate office, and from 81, 2, and 3 wiped all those out. I had to liquidate them just to make it through there, keep my family in our house and pay our bills and whatever. So it was a very trying time. So I was out for a couple years, did some other stuff while I was waiting for the market to come back. And then when I came back to real estate, I came as an investor and I learned the probates. I found probates. And in 1987, I started in buying and selling. And that's all I did for 13 years because the purpose at that time was to get my time back. I didn't want to work 70 hours a week to keep the income up that I had before the crash came and took everything away. And I figured with these probates, if it would work, I could make 3 times what I would normally make on a regular escrow. And that would mean, in my mind, I could cut my time down 2/3 and make the amount of money that I wanted to make to keep my family in the lifestyle that they had been accustomed to before this crash came. I wanted to get back there. But now I was coming back into the market a little smarter. I was learning not to live above my means. Doesn't matter if you're making 150 a year and you're spending 175, or you're making 200 a year and spending 250, or you're making 50 a year and spending 70. When that income goes away, you got a problem, right? You got a problem. So I learned the value there, not to live above my means, and it was a great lesson. Even though we had to go through all that, and I lost 8 rental properties, which was my retirement. I was on a 20-year program to buy a house a year. I started at 24. I was taught this by my broker, and then at the end of 20 years, when I was going to be 44, we'd sell the first 10 we bought, pay off the last 10, or the newest 10, and then I'd have 10 homes free and clear. That was paying me a passive income every month at the age of 44. And wow, that would be a great life. Okay. Well, things change, right? I got to year 8. I had 8 houses, and I also had bought a real estate office. And then when that collapse came in 81, 2, and 3, it was devastating. Interest rates went to 23%. We couldn't sell a house to save our life. You had to do creative financing. You had to give properties away. Of course, there was people picking them up, right? Because that's what they do. In the bad markets, people pick up and they wait for the high market. So I had to liquidate everything I had just to keep afloat. And there goes my retirement program. So I learned some lessons on that. It actually was a positive. And so for those 13 years, I was buying and selling, and it was great. And the only time that I would act as an agent would be if I was trying to buy that property from the estate and it just wasn't going to go together, and I knew that it wasn't going to be a wholesale process. Then I would try to find another buyer for it that could pay a little bit more, a retail buyer, or I would list it and put it on the market or whatever. But that was the only time I wasn't chasing listings or sales if I couldn't buy the property. All that changed in 2000 when I went back to the real estate business because things had changed. I was done traveling those 10 years with my kids and sports and coaching and everything I was doing. So I was ready to get back into the business. So I wanted it all. And that's how I developed the 5 ways we earn with real estate that you're going to learn. And it has served me very well the last 18 years that I've been doing this. I actually was able to retire from all this 2 years ago, or semi-retire. I'm still active. But anyway, for all of the 2000s, I was with Remax out of the Bay Area, Castro Valley. I have Hall of Fame status there. When I was there, I was a top producer, all because of probates and trust homes, and just was loving my life at that time. Had no reason to leave, but an opportunity came up with eXp Real Estate that was brought to me by one of my top probate students who knew I was looking for some passive income because I was 64 at the time, and I kept telling myself and my close friends going, I'm loving this. I'm doing very well, making multiple 6 figures, but am I ever going to be able to slow down because I don't have any rental properties now because they're too hard to get into, take too long. I'm in my mid 60s. I'm not going to be able to buy enough rentals to live the lifestyle and the income that we enjoy right now from when I'm working. So I thought I would just be selling homes and probates until I dropped, right? Well, he opened my eyes and I took the opportunity. So today you're getting an opportunity for yourself, and that would be to increase your production every year by working off market probate homes. So you already seen the link, or you should have, with the pre-information on why probates. And now you're here today. You're taking time to look at this, so that's good. So far, so good. So hopefully, when you're done with this, you're going to see the value. and you're going to jump into this, wholeheartedly, and you're not going to stop or quit until you do at least one probate. And if you do this, your whole world's going to change for you real estate wise, okay? Now, I've closed over 500 probates, probably closer to 600 now. I've trained over 4,000 diamond farming members, which is made up of agents and investors that wanted to learn probate. And in 1992, I offered a book called Diamond Farming Probate Real Estate that my attorney asked me to write when he found out what I was doing. And I did it, and it has become a bestseller over the years. So this has all kind of led me up to today. All right. So that kind of gives you my background. So what is probate? So all this is that somebody has passed away, the deceased, and before he passed away, he either had a will, and in that will it stated who was going to get what, and in more particular, who was going to handle his affairs when he passed away. And this process was all about all the assets going through probate under court supervision, all the debts being paid to the deceased, and then whatever assets were left would be distributed to the heirs of the deceased according to his will, or if there wasn't a will, according to just the kind of the family pecking order. Okay, so that's all probate is. It's just clearing out the assets and debts of the deceased. And in our case, the focus is real estate. We only care about the real estate. I'm not looking at cars or jewelry or things like that some people say you could do with probates. I don't chase pennies. I chase dollars, okay? So I'm not in the flea market business. But yes, there is an opportunity there for you if you come into an estate and you're up there early. I've been there where they've had cars, beautiful cars, hot rods and classics and, motorcycles and jewelry and whatever. And a couple times I took them in trade for commission. I thought I was going to build an old 1940, Dodge, but for the most part, I'm there to make the commissions, make the money on either buying that property or making a commission out of it, okay? You'll make that decision once you get into there, but those opportunities are there. So who are the players in a probate? Who are you going to be dealing with? This is important to understand, and again, foundational, because this will be brought to you per person that we're dealing with once we're in a transaction with you. But just let this soak in because this is who we're dealing with. So first of all, the most important person in our process that we're going to be doing working probates is the personal rep, called the PR, personal rep. This is the person that was nominated by the deceased to settle the estate affairs, okay, handle everything. This is a horrendous task that these people take on. And most of them don't want to be there, but they do it because there's nobody else in the family, and these assets aren't going to get spread to the heirs unless it's done. So the personal rep is going to be this person that we're going to get close to and build a relationship because they're the decision maker. And when they're ready either to list the property or they're going to sell it to us, they just take a contract, and a lot of them want to do that. They don't want to be tied up with listings and get all of that stuff and lenders, appraisals, and inspections. They just want to be done with it, right? Get those net cash proceeds to the estate and move on with the probate. Well, when that personal rep is appointed, he has to go to court to be approved by the court to be either an executor or administrator. So it's the same person with the same duties that personal rep is going to be appointed to. And that's normally 30 to 45 days after the petition is filed, which starts the probate process. Now, if they're an executor, they're going to court to be approved to be the executor. That means there is a will, and in the will it names this person to be the executor. If there's no will, what happens a lot, then the person that the family chooses, or if there's no family, the court appoints, will be called the administrator. Same person, same duties, so it doesn't really matter to us. The only difference will be, are they going to the court confirm process of sale, or as you will learn through the independent administrations, and that's where we want them to go. Now there's heirs. The heirs for our focus is anyone that's getting a piece of the real estate. Because as you will learn, as we're doing and getting into deals, you may be dealing with a PR that has a different priority with that property than the rest of the family does. Maybe they want it. and they want it at a real good price so they could fix it and resell it. Or they want one of their partners to get it and they're going to go in with them as a rental. It may not be the best for the family. So by knowing who the heirs are and the way we do this in research, we have their names, their relationship to the deceased, and their address on every heir that has an interest. We can actually go to those heirs and say, hey, we've been trying to buy this property. The executor just not responding anymore. He says, no, we're doing something else, but he won't tell me why. He won't let me submit an offer. What's going on? Are you interested in looking at? Because I understand you have a piece of this property. And I've put deals together because the heirs have put pressure on the PRs. Hey, what are you doing? This guy wants to make an offer. Let's look at it. Let's look at all offers. And that has helped me do some deals. So we want to know who those heirs are. Not everybody. And it would just be the adult heirs who have a saying, they have a piece of the property, and we go from there, okay? There's going to be an estate attorney on about probably 85 to 90% of the cases you look at. If there's no attorney involved, then that means the personal rep is going through what's called pro per. That means he's handling the legal side of this himself or herself, which they're allowed to do. The problem with this is that because they don't know what they're doing, and they're either reading out of a book or going to Nolo Press or doing something like that, they tend to do things wrong. Their paperwork isn't correct, and when they go to court for their hearings, the court kicks it out and say, this is wrong. Go get it corrected. We'll put you on the court case 2 months from now, 3 months from now. Usually that's how far out they put new cases or continuances on, and now there's a delay. So usually it's delay after delay after delay. But we work with those pro pers, and a lot of them, we will funnel them to our state attorneys we're working with, or to our LDAs, which is like a paralegal but a step above, who can handle all the paperwork for them. There's a few options that we have for them in this, and we can get the deal done. And sometimes when they're going pro per, it's not going to happen right away that they realize that they need help. Most of the time they're pro pers, they don't want to pay the attorney's fees, which we'll show you how much those are. Okay, it's a statutory fee, just a percentage of the assets. So they go pro per. And this actually will be an opportunity for you to help show your expertise and get involved there. Then there's going to be a probate referee. This person is the one who goes to the estate home and appraises it. Now, they are not licensed certified appraisers, and very rarely do they actually go inside the house. They have somebody drive by the front, take a picture of it. They get a comp service, usually not the MLS, and look at comps, and they put a price on it. And normally the price is higher than it should be. I found them to be usually 5%, sometimes 10% higher than it actually should be. They're supposed to be appraising the home at the time of death, and then every year after that appraisal, they have to reappraise it if the probate is still lingering on. So these appraisals are bogus, but what I want to clarify right now is the way we do our probate business is we avoid these probates appraisals. We don't have to use them in negotiating for our sales or our listings. They do have to be done. The appraisals have to be done because they have to know the value of the property at time of death for tax purposes, okay, to step up the basis and things like this. But for our purpose of buying probates, it's not necessary because we're going through one of the laws that was enacted back in 1987, and it is the reason I'm in probate, which bypass all the garbage from the confirmation of sales that you may have some knowledge of or heard something of. And I'll talk a little bit about confirmation of sales as well and how basically to stay away from them. But the reason everything changed for probate and why I've been in it since 87 is because of this act that's called the Independent Administrations of Estates Act, the IAEI. And that was, again, enacted in 1987. And what it did, it allowed the estate to actually handle the home like a regular sale, with a few exceptions on some documents that has to be into title. But it allowed any deposit agreed upon between buyer and seller. Now, as you know, in a court-confirmed probate sale, the buyer has to put up 10% deposit, 10% of the offer price. So I tell people all the time, if you're dealing with an FHA or VA buyer who wants to buy that estate house and most likely will pay the most money for it, how are they going to put up a 10% deposit on a $500,000 home here in the Bay Area, which is 50 grand, when if they're coming in VA, it's zero down, and if they're coming in FHA, it's 3.5% down, so somewhere around 17, 18 grand, which they have, but they don't have 50 grand to put up most of the time. So what did these FHA VA buyers usually do? They bypass the estate home. So was that a good deal for the estate? Because the people that could have paid the most money can't buy the house. Or is it a good deal for the buyer? They wanted to buy a home and they find out that they can't because they can't put up 10%. That's ridiculous, okay? But that's the law. And that's how it's been for many years up until 1987 when the independent administrations was put into play. Now also, any price agreed upon between buyer and seller. So that means if that property is a fixture type property, we can actually put a deal together for an investor that will pay all cash. Maybe the house is not even loanable, right? Because it's so bad. Maybe there's no heat in it, no kitchen. I've seen all this and we've dealt with this. Well, when you're going through the confirmation of sale, the price has to be 90% of that bogus court appraiser who's not licensed or certified. And if it's 5% high already, then one investor is going to be able to buy that property if there's work needed so they can fix it up and flip it, or fix it up and rent it out if they're paying almost retail for it. Doesn't make sense, right? But now under this IAEA, they can any price that makes sense. So our job is to help the estate understand that. We show them the cosmetic costs, fix up the property, inspections that we will get so they know the total picture, and that helps us negotiate a good deal for an investor. Or if the estate needs more, it helps us find a landlord who can pay a little bit more or a retail buyer. So that helps us. Our closing now can happen in 35 days or less. So the reason we use 35 days is you will learn there's a NOPA, a Notice of Proposed Action, that allows all of the heirs of a probate sale to be given a notice in 15 days to see the terms of the sale and contest the sale if they don't agree what the executor or administrator is doing. And then the court adds 5 days for mailing. So it's basically a 20-day process. So because of that 20-day process, we normally write our offers for 35 days because once we get past that, we know there's no issues, then we'll close it out in 15 days. Now there's a way to avoid that we can actually close quicker. 7 days, 10 days, 15 if we're all cash. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, but the point here is the IAEA allows us to do this. Now, we don't have to worry about going to court to get a court confirmation of our sale and anybody else overbidding there at court because that's what the judge is going to do because there is no court confirmation. Once we have a ratified offer, we are in escrow, and the only way we're not closing that if we decide we don't want it because the inspections came out too big and we could not negotiate the right price with the estate. But then we have a plan B for that, as we'll get into, okay? So what I want to open your eyes to now is what is your title company going to require from you to close a probate sale, okay? And it's very important to understand this because your title escrow officer that you're dealing with may be tops, may be the best one in your area, 30 years in the business, knows everything. But if she isn't savvy on probates, it could cost you a deal. Okay? So the first thing I tell people that are working with us is you have my escrow officers available to you, and I'll give out some names later on through this. And I've been with one 30 years, 115 and 110. They know the process, they know my system, they get it done. Or if you want to stay with your escrow officer, just ask them, what are you going to require to close the probate? And what the requirements are to close a probate without a title company doing what's called overlaying, meaning putting on additional requirements. The only thing that is really needed are the following. First of all, if it's an executor we have to have what's called certified letters of testamentary. And what that is that's the signing authority that the executor has to sign the grant deed over to the new buyer in escrow, and the title company to able to accept their signature because they're not on the grant deed, right? Mom and dad passed away. The son is selling the home. He's not on title. So how does he sign for his mom and dad who were passed away? Can't do it. Title company can't accept his signature. They can't issue title insurance. So what the IAEA put in place was certified letters of testamentary. And what that is a signing authority. So we show that, we give a certified copy to the title company. Now they know when Sonny comes in to sign the grant deed from his mom and dad to the new buyers, we're good to go. They can issue title insurance on it. If it's an administrator, remember, same person, they were just appointed without a will, then they have certified letters of administration. Now, where these forms come from is usually the estate attorney, and then my title company will ask for them, and we'll show you that in that process when we get to that point in our training, but they'll ask for them. If not, we can get them from the court ourselves. It's no big deal, okay? Or we ask the PR to get copies for us. They usually have their own. All right, and now you have signing authority taken care of. Now, the title company also is going to have what's called notice of proposed action. I kind of mentioned that earlier. What that is, as I mentioned, is a notice is going to go out. It's a form, court form, to every heir that has an interest in the real estate, and it's going to say what the sale price and terms were of the sale that the executor administrator is signing. And that heir will have 15 days to contest it. If they contest it for any reason, everything stops in the sale, and now we're going to have to go to a court-confirmed sale, and the court's going to decide if that's a good sale or not, okay? But we don't want that to happen, right? In my 30-plus years, I've had this happen 3 times, and each time I was able to work it out and close the deals. But usually what it was just lack of communication between the family, or one family member thinking another family member was trying to get something over on them. So it's just a matter of jumping in there, rolling up your sleeves, and getting that done, okay? And if you're chasing a $25,000 potential fee, which is selling it to your investor, and then a listing commission going out, and possibly a selling commission, you're going to get in there and do whatever you need to do. If I have to fly to Florida, I'll do it, okay? Because it makes sense, right? Because our fees are so much bigger, okay? So this notice of proposed action is prepared by the estate attorney, and then it's given to the title company either in a letter form that there are no heirs to, to send this to because the executor or administrator is sole heir, or we do what's called a waiver of notice of proposed action, and that's another form just saying that all these heirs are waiving the notice so they don't have to get the 15-day notice plus 5 days. And that's normally how this goes, because what happens is when you're sitting down with an executor or administrator, you're negotiating a deal, they're usually not going to sign anything until all the heirs have approved it. So either we have to have a statement in our contract subject to the heirs' approval within 3 days, and if that's going to happen, or they want to talk that night to the heirs and then sign it if all is good. What happens and what we do is once there's a green light, we'll say, great, let's sign the waiver of notice of proposed action for each of the heirs. Here it is, email, send it to them, have them sign it, get it back so we can show title that the waivers on all parties is in, and then we don't have to wait that 20-day period, and we can close this thing in 10 days if we're all cash, okay? Then the third item that title company is going to want is they want a letter from either the attorney or the administrator executor saying that the federal taxes are in order. And that's usually a no-brainer because the final tax return hasn't been done. And I've never had one come up that was an issue. Again, I had one where there was some money owed to a tax lien was on there, so they had to pay the tax lien. But that was it. It came out of closing. Usually that's going to be in order. Okay, so what do these forms look like? So I want to show you. So when it comes up later on, it won't be Greek to you. So letters of administration look like this. and it's certified. You see the stamp in the lower right corner. There's three highlights there that I point out. Number one shows that this is of administration. This is certified letters of administration. So we have an administrator that we're dealing with. Number two tells us what type, again, and confirms, are they coming in as the executor, the administrator, what is it? And normally that's going to be the administrator, or if it's a administrator with special circumstances, because it could be a court-appointed administrator because there's no family members. That tells us there, confirms it. And number three is the approval that the personal rep is, qualified, is approved to administer the estate under the independent administrations, and they have full authority, because you can see that fourth arrow is pointed to the box with full authority, and that means they can go through the IAEA, and we are good to go. So that's what we're looking for, and we get a copy of that to the title company, and when we get ready to close our deal, or we sold our listing or whatever, we're ready to go. Our people can sign the grant deed, okay? Now, if it's an executor, it will show same form, right? It's just a box that said testamentary was marked. That means the executor is going through this and applying to the court to be approved. Same thing. Number one just points out they're going in as an executor. Number two, again, shows that they've been approved to be the personal rep has been approved under the independent administrations to act with full authority. Bang, it's certified at the bottom. We're good to go. Okay? We send that to the title company, a certified copy of it. And we want that as soon as possible, because we got to make sure that what we're doing is going to work, so we don't get down to the 11th hour, as I have seen many times, and the agent that didn't know what they were doing but thought they were in the know, didn't have letters in, and the title company didn't know any better that they were dealing with, and they find out in the 11th hour they can't close, they can't do nothing. Okay? You don't want to be there. We're pros, folks. Okay? Now, the notice of proposed action I mentioned to you, this is the notice that goes out to any heir that the executor administrator has sold the property. And item one here, the arrow, is just the terms of the sale. And on the back it will state, if they contest the sale, sign this and send it in, and everything stops, okay? But if there's a problem, remember, we're going to know up front before our contract is signed or a listing if there's any issues, and we're okay with that. Now, if you're taking a listing and then an offer comes in, you have to know enough to put in your terms of your offer that it's subject to the notice of proposed action. So when you have the offer come in and your executor signs it, and there's a problem with one of the heirs, you don't want it to get sticky because somebody says, hey, you signed my offer. I want my deal. Okay? And then, it's going to take the court to untangle that. So we got to know what we're doing. So there's certain things that we put in our listings if we're taking a listing that protects the estate. And I make sure they know this when we're on our presentation with them if we're looking to buy the home or list it, because 75% of my presentation, as you'll learn in the next session, is all probate. And then we do a little bit on marketing, okay? Now, the waiver of notice of proposed action I told you about, here's the form. This is page 1, and then there's page 2, and all they do is sign this, that they're waiving the notice, and we give that to title company up front, and we're good to go. We're going to skip that 20-day period, okay? So next, I want to talk about the timeline when a probate is open and what you're going to be looking at. Because the average probate takes about 7 months to complete. And there's reason for that, because there are triggers and timelines that have to be met before the probate can be closed out. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to wait 7 months to get our listing sold and closed or our purchase sold and closed. It just means the probate is going to take that long. And what you will find out is once we have our sale, we can close it out right away. 30 days, 15 days, 45 days, whatever it takes. If there's a notice of proposed action needed or not, whatever it takes, but it's usually going to be no more than 45 days if we're getting a loan. And it could be as little as 10 to 15 days if all cash and no N.O.P.A. but we're going to close that deal right away. So what happens is the day that the petition for probate is filed, that means it's opened up a probate process. That's day one. Okay, it's open. That's usually filed by the personal rep or the attorney at the courthouse. That starts day one. Now the personal rep, remember PR, personal rep, who's either the executive or administrator, they're applying to the court to be approved to be the administrator or executor. That's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to get on the court calendar and be approved. So while they're waiting to be approved, people have said, well, they can't do anything with the property and blah, blah, blah. Well, we have bottomed during this 3 to 4 week wait for them to be approved to be the administrator or executor. But I buy them in a way that I tie up the property, but I can't close it unless they are approved. But what that does is you will learn when you get to these stages with these probates, people are going to come out of the woodwork. Family members, realtor friends of family members were at the cocktail party. The message come out, oh yeah, my uncle is selling the property over there on Main Street. Really? Yeah, he sold it for 50 grand, I heard. 50 grand, that's worth 75, 80 grand over there. Yeah, but I need a little bit of work. Well, I'd buy it for more than that. So that's what you hear. Or through the estate attorney's office, their agents hear about it. You know, hey, Kyle, how come we didn't get that property that you're doing? Well, they brought an offer in and they had it all done before. Well, I'm going to contact the estate because I think I can bring them a higher offer. So you're going to hear all this. So if you can get it tied up, which we try to do right at first while we're waiting for them to be approved, they can't get out of it. And this has been tested by an estate that tried to get out of mine for that reason, that another realtor who had made a lower offer prior to me coming in wanted it and then wanted to pay what I was getting it for. And I said, well, why would you sell it to him now? He's giving you more now than he would have before, and only because I'm here. You really want to sell it to that guy? Well, he works part-time with my wife, and it's going to cause some problems. I go, well, I got a signed contract, and that's not a good enough reason for me, so I'm moving forward. And that agent had them call an attorney, a very well-known attorney, and that attorney told him, it's ironclad. Now, if you're not approved, that's something else. But right now, it's ironclad, okay? So we have a process. So that takes, let's say, 30 days for the PR to be approved. So we just used up a month in the probate. Now, the day that they're approved to be executor administrator, it's going to be the 4-month notice to creditors starts. And what that is a notice goes out to any creditors that the executor administrator can find, and it's their job to find them to the best of their ability. And then those creditors have up to 4 months to submit a claim. After 4 months, they lose out. But for those 4 months, the probate cannot close. So now we have 4 plus the 1 up front month. So now we're into this thing 5 months. Okay. Now, while we're in that 4-month period, the PR has a duties and liabilities checklist to complete from the day that they're approved, and they're going to have 90 to 120 days to get all these tasks done, which has to be done within the 4-month creditor period. And if they don't get these tasks completed, they could be held liable before the court with very large fines and worse. So these PRs that we're going to be coming and dealing with will be under a lot of stress. So you have to know how to comfort them and talk to them about this and help them through all this stuff. Because the attorney's offices aren't going to do a whole lot other than the process, going to court, getting it closed. They usually have their gatekeeper, their paralegal in the office is the only one that's really talking to the estate. And it kind of keep them in the dark, okay? So we're here to help them. We're not giving legal advice, but we just show them, go here, you should be able to do this. Ask them about doing it this way or whatever, okay? But point being, we are now in the process 5 months, and then once the creditor period is done, it takes about another 2 months to close out the probate. So that's why the average probate takes 7 months. Now, I didn't say we have to wait that long, right? I've already explained this. We can buy in the first week the petition comes out. We can't close until the PR is approved to be executor or administrator because they have to sign the grant deed, right? But that's going to be 30 to 45 days. So we can have our offer signed And on the 30th day, they're approved by the court, we can close 5 days later. We're done. Our client has the house. We've been paid. Our client could be an investor. He starts rehab on the house. That takes 30, 60 days. Puts it back on the market, sells it, takes another 45 days to 60 to close. We could be done with those two processes, buying it, closing it, rehabbing it, putting it on the market, reselling it, and closing it before the original probate we bought that house from for our client is closing final distribution. Isn't that crazy? But a lot of agents running around think, man, I don't want to wait 7 months to get my commission. My buyer can't wait 7 months. They have to relocate during the summer because kids are starting school. They got to be in the house. They got to get out of the one they're in. Don't believe those myths. Those are from people that don't understand probate the way it really is. And I want to keep them that way, okay? The only ones I want to know the true story are the ones that are working with us, that are bringing probates to us, because I told you all this on the pre-video that you were sent on why to look at probates, is that's how we make our money. We work with you closing your first 1, 2, 3, whatever it takes for you to stand on your own. We're going to split the commission 50-50 and boom. We make money. You made money. You paid nothing up front to be trained. It was proven to you that this deal works, and now your whole world's going to change. And if you still need us for another 1, 2, 3, or whatever, we're here. Of course we are. And then from that point on, we are working for you on a consultant basis if you need it. Hourly fee, whatever you may need. Much better way. Don't pay your hard-earned money for systems that are basically all the same. Most of them are some type of ripoff of my system that's been around, since 1991, 92. Most of the guys selling probates right now online were never around until 2000 and forward. Okay, folks? I have my own students rehashing my system and selling it. So when you're dealing with somebody, number one is you want to find out how many probates have you personally called. If you're calling it 8, I have a lot of students from other people that they went to first, usually because the price was cheaper. Or they heard a good story, at their MLS when they came through. Okay? I'm telling you, I know most of them. All right? Ask them how many they buy themselves, how many they've listed, how many they've sold. I put my volume online. It's all in that pre-video you should have seen. It was my 2016 schedule. You saw what I did. 16 million closing probate homes. Okay? So, anyway, I don't want to get into that too much. But, so, we're going to be there with you. Okay? So, let's talk about the estate attorney fees, because you need to know how these are calculated just so you have this in your database. So, when you're sitting with an estate, you can explain this to them. So, how the statutory law is written in California is it's based on the asset value. Gross asset value has no bearing on any liens against the property. It's just the full value of the property. So on the first 100,000 of value, the attorney can charge 4% or $4,000. On the next 100, that would be up to 200. You can charge 3%, another $3,000. So now you're into this thing 7,000 just on a home at 200,000. And in our case, with this 500,000 example, there's another 300,000 to compute, and it's 2% up to the next 800,000. So that would be on 300,000, 6,000 more. So on a $500,000 sale, house only, the attorney's fee is $13,000. Okay, not too bad, but still, if you figured our commissions, about the same, right? But that's just on the house, and if they have any other assets, jewelry, cars, whatever, they're getting paid on that, and it doesn't matter what debts are owed against those assets, okay? But the reason you want to know this is so you could talk about it with the estate and then tell them, look, do you realize that you can ask for that fee yourself? Because some cases you're going to find the executor administrator is not an heir that's getting a piece of the property, a piece of the assets. So this is an incentive for them that, hey, you mean I can ask for this $13,000? Yes, you can. And in most cases, the family's going to say yes because you're doing all this horrendous work. Now, a lot of times that person will say, no, I don't want it. It's the family's money. I'm just going to do this. Okay, it's your choice. But where this really comes in handy is when you find a probate that is underwater. It's a short sale. And a lot of them are these days, a lot more than used to be. Because normally they were always free and clear when I came around, up until around 2005. And then I started seeing over encumbered reverse mortgages coming on. They tap it out, and the values dropped and things like that. So uh, now when we tell that executor, hey, look it, what are you going to do with the property? Well, there's no equity in it. We're going through probate because we got to clear out the other, assets of the estate and things like that. But probably just going to let the house go. Well, do you realize that this house is valued at around 500,000? Yeah. Well, do you realize that there's a possibility you could get the statutory fee of 13,000 on this? I did not know that. Yeah. Would you like that? Yes. I had one that said he was the stepfather. The mother died of four children. He had married her. They were his stepchildren. She died. He was the executor. When he found out he had a $10,000 fee available, he goes, let's do it, Gary, because I'm going to give the kids each 2,500. And that got me a deal. I double-ended it. Okay? So by knowing that, that separates you from anybody else who's calling on those. And I just sat with an attorney yesterday we're going to start doing business with, and he told me, I get so many calls from agents, and they ask me the most silliest questions about the estate and the house and how great they are, and they want to buy it or list it and all that. And just from what they're telling me, I know they don't have a clue about probate. And he said, just in 20 minutes talking with you, Gary, I see it. I had two partners with me. I see that you know what you're talking about. We're going to be able to do business together. Now, he wasn't going to just give me the deals, because most attorneys that are straight up are not just going to give you the deal. If they are, there's other motives there, okay? But what they will do is give usually 3 names of agents that they recommend the estate to interview, and say, choose whoever you feel the best with. I feel confident that any 3 of them, they all know what they're doing. So he's putting us in that mess. And he's going to say, very strongly say, really take a look at Gary. He has the most experience with this. And, I've checked him out, and he can really do you good. But the other ones are good. I've done business with them. Whatever you want to do. Okay? That's the way it should be done. So anyway, that's a little tidbit there on the attorney fees and executive fees that could help you out later. So I want to go into now the probate leads. Now, probate leads is the lifeblood of our business, okay? If you don't have any leads, it doesn't matter how good you know this system, because you're not going to be able to use it. So there's a couple ways to get leads. You're either going to go yourself to your courthouse, your superior court house in your county, and you're going to research every week all the new files. We explain how to do that. Or you're going to hire a service, and some of the services are very expensive. They don't give you an extension service. Or you could use our lead service that we have. By being a network agent with us, we make this available to you. It's even free for some. But what it does is all the work for you. And then all you're doing is every week you're getting 40 to 50 leads to start calling the following week. And then every Friday night you'll have 40 to 50 new leads, okay? So, but you have to have new leads, because this is all about follow-up. And every week you're going to get leads, and some of them you're going to be able to contact. Some of them are not going to pick up the phone. You're going to send out your flyers. And by doing it every week, you will start having conversations with PRs. You'll start having responses from them. It could be anything from, how did you get my information, to, we are thinking about selling it. What do you got? Or, yeah, I'm going to list it, but I was going to use Joe Blow. And then we have, counters for all that, okay, which you will learn. But you got to have the leads. So the superior courts in each county keeps all the probate leads. And that county will either be direct. You have to go direct to get your leads, like Conacosta is. They're not online. You can't get what we need online, so you have to go there. Or you can get them online, like San Francisco County. And then you could do it from the comfort of your home every week. But I have researchers in every county that we service around the Bay Area, and that's Solano, Marin, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa. We're in Stanislaus County, Merced County, just opening San Joaquin. We're in Sacramento. We're also in all over SoCal, going into San Diego now. We're going into Redding up there with our team, headed by Nate Moulter, fantastic agent. So we have them, folks, okay? And why we have them is we're looking for deals. And your first order of business is going to learn how to set appointments. That's all you need to know. You don't need all this other stuff right now that I'm enlightening you. Again, this is a foundation course just to let you see where we're going with this. And then we're going to hold your hand, okay? If you choose to get involved, okay? So at the superior courts will be the petition for probate. And that has all of the pertinent information that we need to put into our marketing campaign, okay? Also in that file that we'll access is the duties and liabilities form that I talked about. And the reason we want that one is because that confirms the PR to B's address again, make sure it's the same that was on the petition. Sometimes they're wrong. And it gives us their phone number about 60% of the time. That's great to have, okay? We're going to put all this information on our what we call PTS form, our probate tracking form. Gary Jr. takes those forms and he does a tax scrub, which means he double checks that the property on the petition. Now, I'm going to go through these petitions here in a minute, but real quick, he's going to go through the petition, check the property that they say was the residence of the deceased at time of death, and make sure that that is in fact owned by the deceased. He's going to check to see if they own other property, and we put this all on our probate tracking sheet. So most of the time, the probate tracking sheets that you're getting every Friday night, it has accurate information. Now sometimes they show that they had a $500,000 real estate, but nothing shows up in the tax rolls under the name of the estate. And we'll make notes on that, and then that means we're going to ask the PR, hey, you're showing a $500,000 piece of real estate, but there's nothing under Joe Smith's name. Do you have a piece of real estate? And if you do, are you guys going to be selling it? Because that's what we do. Okay, now to open up that conversation. Now, you can get your own leads by going to, there's several lead servers. Probatedata.com is nation. It's Mike Torres. He's out of SoCal, and he works about 5 western states, okay? He's got a fee. His fee monthly is not too bad. It's like 70, 80 bucks. But he'll charge you $500 because you have to take his course first to be able to get the leads. So you don't need that, okay? You don't need that course. So those leads, I would say you could do it yourself. And I recommend everybody when you start is once you know where to go to get the leads and do it yourself, then get a lead service if you want, because you have more productive things to do than spend 2 hours a week down at every courthouse that you're going to be tracking, okay? And that would be one a county. So in all these counties that we work, just around the Bay is like 7. You'd be spending 14 hours a week in the courthouses, okay? That's driving time, things like that. So you don't want to do that. You're out chasing thousands of dollars on deals, right? So once you're up and running, you know what you're doing, I would say get a service right away, but check it out yourself so you can go and get it if you need it. Whatever you want to do there, we'll help you with that. Okay, U.S. Probate Leads is Leon McKenzie. He's nationwide, but he's one of the most expensive ones. And then another one that's out there now is ATL, All the Leads. They're out of Atlanta, I think. I talked to them. Just for Marin County, they wanted $170 a month. They only go once a month. And for Solano County, they wanted $200. So $370 for 2 counties. My service is $99 for all the counties. And I have better information because I asked them, why aren't you putting the phone numbers? Well, we don't search that. Why aren't you giving us this, that, and whatever? We don't do that right now. We give you this. It's on an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I was just comparing. So what we give you is a PTS probate sheet I'm going to show you, and we give you an Excel spreadsheet so you can do your marketing and mail merge and all that. But you got to have them, folks, because you need to be every week reaching out to new estates while you're following up on the older ones. And we archive estates back to 2016, and we have team members that go back and check a year, 2 years, 8 months ago to see if the property's ever closed or sold. And because remember, 2,000 of these a year are coming across our desk. So over the last 2 years, that was 4,000 properties. And most likely 2,000 to 3,000 have sold, but there might be another 1,000 to 1,500 sitting out there that didn't sell, right? That's good business to go after, okay? Now, on the probate leads, what we're looking for, our researchers, they're going to pull the petition for probate. There'll be a notice to probate in there. That's just kind of telling the court we're starting it. Then the petition comes out and name all the parties and everything they need to do. It's 4 pages long. We use 3 pages of that, and I'll show you in a minute. And then we also look for duties and liabilities. I explained why. That's where we get the phone number, okay? So let's take Alameda County now. So in Alameda County, this is the building at 1221 Oak Street where they have the county administration's offices. And down in the basement, lower level, is the file room. And you go in there, you walk in, there's the counter area, and then there's 4 computers against the wall. And my researchers will go in there once a week, whatever day is their choice. And what they're doing is pulling every case file that was filed the prior week, Monday through Friday. So we're doing 5 days only. And we search all of them. They fill out the probate tracking sheet, as you will see in a minute, and then that's what's released Friday night after 7 to all of our network partners to go after these things. And we don't break them up. It's whoever makes the appointment, because it's very difficult to make and find a PR. You got to follow up. You got to have drip systems and all that. But those that can will really benefit with this, with multiple deals a month, okay? So when you go online, and this is what I advise you all to do, just to check it out, you'll go to the County of Alameda site, and you'll see in the bottom left on the main page, go to the main web. And when you get there, you'll see in the bottom, it says petition report filings, and that's what you're going to click on. And what that's going to do is pull up on a day-by-day basis, and you can put in what type of filing you're looking for, drop down probate files, and what date. They'll plug in that Monday, and there might be 15 files that was open that day in family law, so it has to do with probate or conservatorships or custody issues or whatever. And we look for letters of administration or letters of testamentary and things, 4 hot buttons. And that tells us, okay, in those 12 filings, there's 4 of them that now we know the petition for probate is there, and we'll open up that petition, okay? Now remember, this is a foundation course, so when we get to probate leads, I'll be breaking down this even further and going through each of those steps I just met, okay? But right now, I'm just opening your eyes where this information is. So what we're looking for on that petition for probate is we're going to page 2 first, and under item C4, which I'm going to show you here, is if there's any real estate of the deceased owned and what that value is and what any liens against it. It's going to tell us the deceased name so we can reconfirm, okay? The attorney's name and contact info. Who the personal rep is, if they're an executor or administrator. Do they have full or limited authority? What the subject property is. And then, of course, we're going to have Gary's system will title scrub it to make sure. But what we have our researchers do, we tell them, look, on your phones, get the app from your title companies. All of my title companies have it. And you can do your title search right there in the courthouse. You plug in the property. It's going to tell you who the ownership is. And maybe it's not, maybe it is, but you confirm it. And if it isn't, then you'll make a note on there. It doesn't show that this property is owned by the estate, but it's showing $500,000. So you make a mark. Need to ask the PR what is that about. Maybe there's a deal there. Okay. It's going to tell us the address of the PR and their phone number about 60% of the time on the duties and liabilities. Okay. So let's look at this petition. What does it look like? So here it is. This is page 1, but my researchers don't go there first. And if you're doing this on your own, you don't want to either. Now, this is not online. You're not going to get this they're going to give you a half page and you can't read most of the information. If you want this 4-page document, you're going to have to spend $5.50 with your credit card online to pull it. Now, if you're there and there's 40 of those this week in Alameda County, can't have that many. There's normally 80 to 100 a month. Well, if there's 100 a month, do you want to spend $550 just for that one county? And you're not sure how many of them have real estate or not? No. That's why we're there checking at the courthouse, because it's free. And then we have our laptops there. We have our PTS. You're going to see in a minute. And they plug in all this information into our PTS. And boom, we have it. Okay? So we go to page 2 first. And as mentioned, page 2, under this item C4, it asks the real estate value, gross real estate value. And sure enough, it says $500,000. So voila, that tells us there's real estate in this estate. So that means my researcher is going to continue. Right below it, it asks the liens or encumbrances. In this case, none. So what does that tell us? Well, when we see this, when it comes across our desk, it says, wow, $500,000 value. That could be right, it could be wrong, we don't know. But more importantly, there's no loan on this, so it's all equity. So that's a possibility we might be able to do a wholesale deal on here. That's good information to know. If they owed $400,000, then when I see this PTS, am I going to be talking to that executor about a wholesale deal and buying it as is, all cash? No, because there's no equity to buy it and flip it. We have to pay too much because they owe $400,000. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a landlord or retail buyer for that particular property. So because there's real estate, our researchers will go back. And all of these circles, they're going to be inputting into our probate tracking sheet, which is on their laptop. And you'll see there's the attorney information on the top. There is the deceased name, the court file to the right. It's the court date that they're going, December 14th. If you look on top under file, you'll see November 3rd, this was filed. But December 14th, they're going to court to be approved to be either the executor or administrator, in this case, administrator. Okay? So that's a little over 30 days. See what I said? 30 to 45 days that we have time to reach out. Now, if you have a service that's doing this once a month, and that's about what they do because they're paying service companies to go and do all this research, they pay a lot. They cannot have them going every week. But we've already been to that place and reached out to that estate before you're even getting the information if you're on those monthly services. Okay? So, then down, it's going to tell us how they're applying this PR, executor administrator, if they're going for full authority, if there's a bond, and then on the lower left corner, that's the estate address that the deceased was living at the time of death. Now, it doesn't mean that's the $500,000 real estate. It just means that's where they were living at the time they passed. It could be a family member because they were too sick and they moved in, or they could be the care home that they were at or hospice or whatever. So the mistake we made in the early days is we took that as gospel, and then we would call the PR and say, yeah, we're interested in a property on Taylor. We see it's in the probate. Are you going to be thinking about selling that? Well, what are you talking about, Gary? That's the care home my uncle was at, when he passed. We just blew all of our credibility. So we want to know that stuff up front, that that's fact and true, owned by the estate. Or if there's question marks on it, why is it showing $500,000 and this property on Taylor is not under your name, not under the deceased name? Well, when we check that property out, we may see that the deceased transferred it over to a family member. And we can tell who the family member is because on page 3, here are all the heirs. And it tells us who they are. This is page 4 of the petition for probate. Tells us all the heirs, who they are to the estate, okay, which is very important because when you're talking to a PR, like in this case, it's Brian is the PR, and he's the son of the deceased, you can say, hey, Brian, my condolences to the loss of your mom, Dolores. That's a great opening statement, okay? Kind of takes away just the business tone. So again, being pros, that's what we do. And then the circle to the left tells us where Brian is living. Now, if that's the same address of the property on petition in the lower left corner, then we know that that's either Brian's home that his mom was living, or most likely, because they're listing it as an asset, It's her home and he's living in it. That's a great situation for a possible deal. Okay? Now, the other form that our researchers will look at is duties and liabilities. And this is all the tasks. It's 2 pages long. There's second page, first page. And this is everything that poor executive administrator has to do over the next 90 to 120 days. Crazy. But what it means to us on page 2 in the lower left, it gives us the phone number to PR. And about 60% of the time. So we don't have to do all kinds of looking to get a phone number. Because the best approach, folks, is a phone number that you can phone these people and try to get a relationship going. Yes, you can send your flyers if there's nothing else. But if you can have a phone number for them and be persistent until you catch them, maybe it takes 5-10 calls before they actually pick up. Over a 3-week period it took you to finally get to them. Yeah, well, you had the phone number, that's good. Now, the only downside, anybody else that's tracking probates is going to have that phone number as well. So when we get to the next session, we're going to teach you about slide dial and a few other things that we do, okay? All right, so that's how we verify the PR's address and we get their phone number. Now, what do we do with all this information that we just picked up? Page 1, page 2 information, page 4, what do we do with all this? Duties and liabilities, phone numbers. My researchers have their PTS right in their laptop into their Excel spreadsheets. And they take all that information and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then they send it to Gary. And then every Friday night, Gary releases this in form. He has the PTS hard copy like this, because old school dogs like me, I like having hard copies to work with. I don't like working on these little lines with Excel spreadsheets and I can hardly see the things. I got to wear cheaters and the whole thing, right? I know that's the millennials, that's the new way, but we have it. And then that's where you can do your mail merge and anything you want to do with your marketing. So you have it for both. So if you go to our website, which is member only, you pull up, you'll have the PTS forms for that week per county with the Excel spreadsheet per county for all the properties of that week. And then all you're going to be doing to start is reaching out to the estates and seeing if you can get a relationship going, a conversation going on what they're going to do. And then you service them until the point where they're ready to do something. And at the very least, we're going to get an appointment to interview with them. And then our presentation is going to kill them. Okay? And you should be getting it. So on that probate tracking sheet, what we do is upper left corner, we put all of the attorney information. The deceased name, the court file, the attorney's name, their email if we have it. We don't care about their physical address. We're not mailing them anything. But if we have an email, we can send emails. If they don't have an email, we'll get their fax and their phone number. Phone number for sure. We can fax them stuff, inquiries, whatever. On the right side will be all the information our researchers put in for the PR, their name, their address, what city, state, zip, their phone number if there's one, their relationship to the deceased, which is important to know, right? If it's a spouse, we have to handle it with kid gloves because somebody just lost their mate of many years, usually. And, in reality, what happens is by the time they start the probate process, just so you know this, because some people were going, isn't that kind of dark, chasing properties where somebody just died? Isn't it? And you're dealing with their heirs? Well, in reality, people that don't understand what we do, that could be something to say, yeah, that's kind of dark. But really what we're doing is we are helping these people through this, whatever they want to do. We're just making their options known to them. Doesn't mean we have to buy it to fix and flip, make a big profit. It may mean we're listing it. It may mean we're bringing a buyer retail to them. We might be fixing the property up. Who knows? But we're opening their eyes. And by the time they start probate, usually the heavy mourning is over with. And they're starting probate because now they want to move forward with their life and get on. Okay, so this kind of filed that, all right? The way we do this is we're bringing great service to these people and we're earning good from it, all right? Then right side middle is going to be all the subject property information, the address, city, state, what the estimated value is from the heir. That's that page 2 of the petition. Now, if there was no value and we found the property, I would list Zillow or Redfin value here, and it would say that if it was Zillow or Redfin. just to give an idea of the value, knowing that usually those two are off, okay? And just because the estate says it's 500 doesn't mean that's the true value, but it tells us what the estate is thinking. Now today, with all these third-party valuations online, they're usually going to quote what Zillow says or Redfin. So if we know that, we know the property is really not worth that much, then we know we have another part of our presentation that we're going to have to do is bring them down to reality as far as value goes. Next box will be will information. Now today in 2018 and forward, all we care about is it full authority or not? Okay, that's all we want to know. Full authority, yes or no. If it's full authority, we know we can pull it out of the court probate system. We can buy at any price. That's important. If it's not full authority, we're going to have to go through the court confirmation process, and we really don't want to do that. And I'll kind of explain a little bit more about that process when I get to that, okay? Now, on the bottom box is where we put the PR court date. And in this case, it was 1/16. It's going to be in Department 28, okay, at 9 a.m. Now, in the old days, at these hearings, you could go there, and the room is filled with cases, and not all probate cases, but some family law. But the point is, the whole room is filled. And then when the judge calls the case, if it was your case that you were there looking at, probate, he would ask if the executor or administrator, whoever it is in court to be. In other words, they're the PR still, they're going to be approved. And if they were there, they would raise their hand. I would see who they are on this case. So now I'm making contact. I know what they look like, and they go up and do their thing. And then when they're done, they're leaving, usually with their attorney. And then I leave first and get out in the hall, and then I try to single them out when they come out and say, "Hey, Joe, this is Gary. I sent you that flyer last week, or we talked real quick about the property on Main Street. Hey, congratulations. I said you got approved today. Yeah. Hey, listen, can we set a time to have a cup of coffee and talk about it? Would now be good, or you want to do it another day?" And that's giving us face to face, okay? You can be that aggressive with this if you want to be. Just depends on you, okay? Hopefully you'll be busy enough that you don't need to, but you can. If you have limited number of cases in your county, you're only working one county, you're only getting 10 or 15 a month, and you might be a little bit more aggressive, okay? All right. Now a title check. This is what it looks like, right? So we're gonna check the title. As you can see where I circled here on the box on the top, number one tells us, again, the owner's name of the property, and that should match up with the site address. If it doesn't match with the site address, then the mailing address could be different. That tells us that the deceased was living in another home, but they listed the site address as the house in question. He could own two. You never know. So, but that opens our eyes. We would research the other address. Hey, he owns both. Great. We got two possibilities here. And then this also gives us bedroom, bath count, square footage, whatever we need to know about the home. Okay? So that's what we do on our probate leads. Every Friday night, we release anywhere from 30 to 50, about 200, 150 to 200 a month of brand new probates that just opened up the petition. And from there, you're going to be making contact, trying to make appointments. When you make appointments, you'll be calling us and we're going with you or showing you how to do it if you're out of area, whatever. And then once you get to a deal and they say, yeah, we want to buy it, we want you to buy it, or that's a fair price or whatever, then we're going to put that listing or sale together with you and teach you as we're doing it. So don't let that all complicate things right now. You just want to learn where this information is coming and how I'm going to use it and how am I going to contact the estate. And that's going to be session 2 on the next recording that we sent you. Okay? So with your goals with probates is you want to get 25 conversations going with executors, PRs, administrators going on at all times, okay? And of course, you're trying to set appointments and you're following up. And of course, there will be some coming and going each month. Some will do something else. They'll sell it to a family member, list it with another agent, sell it to another buyer, whatever. But there'll also be new ones that are coming in as long as you're moving forward every week and making contacts, sending flyers, phoning PRs, trying to get appointments. If you're steady, you will eventually get 25 conversations going, And that's when multiple deals are going to start coming to you. Okay? Takes a while to get there because it's tough to nail these people down, just like it is any lead in real estate. How's your Zillow leads when you're calling them? How often do you get the person right up front? How often is the phone number wrong? It just happens in our business, but if you stay consistent, the deals will come. Okay? So, how do we make money with probates? Okay? This is important. You want to know this. So, first of all, the first thing that we do is what we call our level one, and that's where we're going to look for a probate home that has the right equity position that we can buy it, fix it up, cash out the estate, fix it up, and then flip it. Okay? That is called level one again. And what our focus with that is we're coming into the estate and we're saying, look, we got an all cash offer. Would you consider an all cash offer as is? Hey, there's no commission. Quick close. We'll even do the trash out for you. So let's break that down. We always want to be all cash if we can. We don't want to have to come in, but that's a different level if we need to come in with a retail buyer and a loan. But right now, some of the estates you'll deal with, it's very appealing to them to be done with this. And the all cash as is, no banks appraising it, no inspectors coming in, whatever, boom. They'll take those deals, okay? Especially if there's 7, 8 heirs and you're asking each one of them to take $10,000 less than what they probably could get if they put it on the open market, then you're going to make a 60 grand profit on it, let's say. They get 10,000 less, but they're getting 90 grand instead of 10 grand or 100 grand. Those deals will go together because this is free money. Of course, you get the greedy ones, just like anywhere else in real estate, who want every dollar. And in those cases, okay, listen, we can't give you that. I don't want to tie you up on something I can't do, but let's get, we know everything about the property. We already got some visual inspections cosmetically. Let us expose it to the market and see if we can get you what you're looking for, okay? We'll give you a break on the commission, whatever it takes. And then we'll go after those listings, okay? But for right now, level one is where we want to be because that's the most lucrative for us right now in terms of the amount we can earn on one transaction, okay? So on the program, we're going to be representing investors, fix and flip investors usually. And what we're going to be doing is double ending these deals for anywhere from a 4 to 6% fee. And that dictates on how much equity we are passing through to our investor. If it's a skinnier deal, then we're probably only going to do 4%. If it's a fat deal for them, we want 6%. And we should get it. And a key here is if your investors that you're dealing with balk on that, on either of those situations, then find a new investor because they don't appreciate what you're bringing to them, okay? All right? We're going to double end that, right? Because we're bringing an offer to the estate. They're not paying the commission. On our level one and level two that you'll hear about in a minute, we don't charge the estate any commission. The buyer pays it. And then we close it. We get paid to double end. And to be a priority investor with me, you have to list the property with me after you rehab it. And I put it on the market. I'm going to charge 2% on that. So there's my third side that I'm picking up. And then if I can sell that myself on the open market, and that's where we focus spending our time, we're going to pick up another 2.5%. So there's 4 possible sides there. So let's look how that breaks down. So on a $400,000 purchase, we could be making 16 to 20 grand fee coming in, right? Let's say the ARV fixed up is 5.25. Just for a sample, I know that might be a little low of paying 400 on a 525, but let's just use that, okay? On a 525, we're going to list it at 2%, so we're going to pick up 10.5 on a list fee. And if we happen to sell it ourselves, we're going to pick up another 2.5 or roughly 13 plus. So you can see we're picking up 16 to 20, and then a 10.5 on a listing, another 13. That's somewhere between $45,000 to $50,000 on the one transaction, folks. Okay, one transaction. If you could do one of those a quarter, that gives you multiple 6 figures. If you do one every 6 months, that adds 6 figures to your business. How sweet is that, right? Okay, but even if you just did the 4, brought the investors in, you did 4, and you're making that 16 to 20 grand right there on each one. And let's just call it 15 grand, and you're you're making 60 grand right there for the year on those 4 deals, and you got 4 listings that you're making 10 grand each on those. You didn't sell it yourself. You're making 100 grand on basically 4 properties, 8 transactions. Okay. Now, what does that do for you if you're at a 60 grand level right now, or even if you're at 100, you're doubling. Or if you're at 250, you're adding another 100 grand to your production without a lot of extra time involved. Okay? This system takes about 5 hours a week, anywhere from 3 to 5, unless you're doing your own researching at the courthouse per courthouse. That's going to add an extra 2 hours a week, so per courthouse. So somewhere around 5 to 10 hours a month to do this. Okay? And excuse me, let's just round it off and call it 5 hours a week. So for 20 hours a month, your business will be running, and then you add to that when you're on a deal, the time it takes to go on the presentation, get the listing, service it, get the sale, service it, whatever. Okay, that's not a bad way to go. So what happens when the estate cannot take our offer? They need more than what we're offering them. So what do we do at that time? Do we walk away? Well, I'll tell you right now, most investors that are negotiating with a estate and they can't get their price, they're walking away and going on to the next property to try to put a deal. And their agent that was working with them, same thing, they lost. We don't. We have an estate that raised their hand, they're going to do something, and we're going to walk it all out. So now what we do in this is we go to what we call level 2. And on level 2, this is wholesale retail. And what that program is, we don't have our own buyer, right? So we're going to look for a wholesale buyer, which is usually a landlord, or a retail buyer who is mom and pop, brother or sister, whoever, their family's trying to buy a house to move into. And we'll have our own database where we keep landlords from past deals or inquiries or retail buyers, break them down by the area of their choice, and we try to match them up to these properties. Okay? We can still do all cash deals from buyers that want to keep the property, or it could be a finance deal. It doesn't matter. We can still buy them as is. We can get work included in the final price. There's no commission to the estate on these, okay? Because we have a buyer, and we add our commission and anything the buyer wants to the net price. So let's say the estate said, Gary, this thing is worth $550 fixed up. You want to buy it at $350. We're not going any less than $400, okay? All right. And we need 50 grand worth of work. So we know we can't be in it at $450 and then, holding costs and sales costs, and we're going to get, $5.25 for it or something like that. So what we do is we'll put a buyer into that and say, look, the estate wants $400. It needs 50 grand worth of work, so there's $450. Our fee on this is $25,000, so you're at $475. Okay. You got closing costs you say you needed, so you're at $485 right now. So at $485, we can sell you this property. I'm sorry, $585. We can sell you this property and be done with it. And you got yourself close to 50 grand sweat equity in this. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Okay. And that's how we sell these. Now, when the market was super hot, this was great because we had every buyer and his brother coming to us because they knew that we do off market, and we were trying to find a house for them because they were tired of competing with everybody, offers over asking and things like that. I could put VA buyers into these. I could put FHA buyers. And those of you in our market that we just came out of, very difficult for those people to buy a home. Now, it's getting a little bit easier now because the market is slowing, but in the hotter areas, it's still tough, okay? So a great way to be. We can still close in 45 days, but that's what we do on our level 2 because we're earning our fees and putting the deals together that the buyer is paying us, okay? So it doesn't matter to us what the price ends up to be as long as it's going to appraise. And if that buyer needed the work done, there was a PESRA and some foundation work and some cosmetic they want, and that costs $50, and we're giving the estate $400, we build in the $50, and we order the work done. And our commission is 25 grand, that's on top. They need 10, it's $485. And let's say that house is worth $550 when we're done. We couldn't get it at $350. That buyer just bought a house for about $500. And they got 50 grand sweat equity. Do you think you could sell those? Yes, you could. Or you think they're going to argue with you about your 6%? The estate isn't. They're getting the net they wanted that they couldn't get from us. and the buyer isn't because they're financing it. And they're buying a house with 50 grand equity in it, fixed. Okay? Great deal. I don't approach my real estate business as a traditional real estate. I approach it as a businessman. Okay? A little more on that later. So what if we can't find a wholesale landlord? And how we find landlords, by the way, if they're not in our database already, we go to the subject area. I have title company do a search of usually start with a half a mile radius and try to find landlords that own 2 or more properties in that area. And if they do, we'll reach out to them because there's probably a reason they own 2 or more. It doesn't mean they just inherited them. They may like the area. And we'll ask them, hey, we got one coming in here. Do you have a buyer for it? Or I'll go to a network agent and say, hey, look I got this probate. We're coming out of it. We cannot find a buyer for it. I notice you closed 3 listings over here in the last 6 months in this area. Do you have a buyer from those listings that you have? Because I have one right now. We can get it for this price. I'll split the 6% with you. Ba-boom. Do you think that network agent would like that call? I think so. And so do I, because I'm getting 3% on a property I wasn't going to probably make anything on because I went through 3 levels or 2 levels already, right? Unless I can get the listing. But why worry about getting the listing if I can get paid right now 3% on just the listing side here without taking the listing and doing all that work? But let's say we didn't have any buyers still. So what's level 3? Level 3 is just that. Taking the listing, we've already proved our worth to the estate that we're probate experts. We know what we're talking about. Everything we do builds up to this point where if nothing else worked and we're going to be asking for the listing, they feel warm and fuzzy with us. They have all our references and everything they need to know and everything we've been telling them up to that point. We got a good shot at getting this listing, okay? All right? And then with that level 3 is what we do is that we'll offer to list the property on the MLS. Joe, we've tried everything. Our database, retail buyers, landlords. You won't take the price for a flipper, so we can't go that route. So if you want to get this number or try to get it, our only other option is to go to the MLS and expose it to the world. We like to go to the MLS. It's going to be on all 5 boards around the Bay. We're going to have you on Realtor.com, on Zillow, on Redfin. You're going to be on 18 other websites through our tour factory. If there's somebody that's going to be paying you this price or interested in getting closer to it, you're going to know. We'll give you a little break on the commission. Let's get busy, okay? And we'll give them, like I said, a break on the commission. I'll give them 2% on the deal, okay? I have all kinds of, I don't let commission stand in my way of doing business because I treat my real estate as a business, as I've mentioned before. For me to control a house in a listing, I equate it to the same thing as being a furniture businessman that owns a furniture store. And I had to go out and buy all my furniture wholesale. I got to put it into my store, pay for that to be done. I got to pay salespeople to sell it. I got to pay office staff to process it. I have rent to pay, utilities to pay, and then I have a margin on there that I'm hoping where I make my profit. We don't have that in real estate. We get our product basically for free. Yeah, you might have to put a sign up. You may have to put it on, the MLS and spend a few bucks here or there, but it's basically free for us. I control that listing, and I have buyers coming to me that I pick up to sell other properties to. I have sellers coming to me that I make a friend with, and we're going to get listings out of. I'm using my listings as a loss leader, okay? But I'm actually still getting paid for them. All right. So even if I got to drop that down to 1%, I'll do it because I know I'll pick up another sale or 2 from the buyers that come through. I'll pick up a possibility to get a listing or 2 from canvassing the neighborhood for this particular listing. Right. So that's how I think. I'm not telling you that's what you have to do, but just, add it to everything that you're learning. Okay. We focus on selling it ourselves. So where we make our money is on the selling side. We consider ourselves buyer agents, okay? But selective buyer agents that we're going after and keeping in our database. They're waiting for a probate property, a landlord waiting for a good investment, things like that, okay? All right? Now, you should have built a good relationship with this PR, executive administrator. If you've done that, there's no reason why they shouldn't give you the listing. We are always thinking about getting a listing at level 3, when we first start our level 1 negotiations, everything we do is leading up to, if nothing else works, we're going to get this listing. Okay? So our program, we represent the estate and take in the listing of the MLS. We work with our network agents like you guys. Hey, we got this over here. You got a buyer. We do pre-MLS listings on TAN. I'm a TAN agent network member. You got to qualify for that. About 20% of the agents in the Bay Area can qualify for that. It's like, I call it a black market MLS. We can pitch listings, get pricing on them, buy properties before they ever hit the MLS. Okay? And we're going to work for the PR and attorney, because once this deal is done, we want to go for both of them for references, and we want that estate attorney to consider us for future clients that come up. That's how you work estate attorneys after you've done business with them, and show them what you can do, okay? Not picking up the phone and saying, would you let me list, okay? That's weak. So an example with level 3, that same 400,000 listing, if you're only getting 2%, okay, you're making $8,000. All right? You do that once a quarter. That's a low side, but once a quarter, you're adding an extra 32 grand gross to you. So if you're making 60 right now, that's like getting a 50% raise just on 4 listings. Add in 1 or 2 of those that you sell yourself, you're picking up another 2.5% on those. That's another 10 grand. That puts you to 42.52. Just on doing that once a quarter, okay? It's the way to go, folks. So level 4, I don't really want to go too much into this. It's the court confirmation process, and what I tell people is, level 4, all you want to do is pick up the phone when you find a probate that has to go through court confirmation, but it's the perfect home for your client. Pick up the phone, call us, and we're going to walk you through. Because if you don't know what you're doing with the 10% rule, the 90% rule, your client can lose that 10%. 6 to 8 week waiting on the court calendar, and then possibly you're overbid in court. Your client spent $500 to $1,000 on inspections. They're going to lose that. They get their 10% back if they're overbid, but still, they waited up to 3 months and they didn't get the house they wanted, and they spent $500, $600, $800. They're not going to be too happy with you. You're probably going to lose. So for right now, when I break down this in segments that we do, like I said, after your foundation courses, there'll be other 1 hour, 1.5 hour webinars we'll be doing where we actually break down even further for the agents that are with us, okay? So I don't want to go too much in the court overbid process right now, but basically it's not a place that you want to be, okay? Because there's bidding going on and a bunch of other things. But if you find one and it fits your client perfectly, it's the school district they want, there's no other listings that fit in their price range, pick up the phone, call me, and I'll show you how to work this. There's an art to it, okay? All right, level 5, I love. This is basically farming probate homes that did not sell during the probate 7-month process. They went to final distribution, probate is over, and now this property has reverted to the heirs. They were supposed to get the property. That's where you have a lot of opportunity here with this system, okay? We are branding those properties all through the 7 months, right? Setting them things on a drip system, so we're not spending our time on hundreds of properties through the year. It's all automatic drip systems that are going to them. But let's say that the estate didn't sell, okay? They take title. A few things is going to happen. They're either going to move into it themselves, the executor administrator. They're going to rent it to one of the family heirs or members, or they're going to rent it to the general public. And each of those is a disaster, because what happens is the heir that was living in it decides, you know what, we're sitting on 500 grand here. Let's sell this house. Now that all this craziness is done, it's been 6 months, let's sell it and go buy the house on the south side of town where we really want to be, because Susie's going to go to high school next year and we need to be over there. Well, if we've been branding ourselves for 7 months, and let's say another 3 to 6 months after it, who do you think is going to get a call to come and at least interview to do that for them? Okay? Right. Us. Okay? If they rent it to a family member heir, that person a lot of times will say, hey, look, it's been 3 months. I can't pay my rent anymore because they cut my hours in half, or I've lost my job. So I want you to take my interest, which is about 100 grand. I'm 1/5 owner, and deduct my rent every month from it. And then when we sell the house, you can give me the rest. Well, that doesn't go over real big with the family, and they'll say, well, let's just sell it now and divide it all up. Who are they going to call? Well, if you followed the 7 months of branding right and then started farming them after final distribution, you got a real good shot, folks. Okay? And if they're renting to the public, you know those nightmares. Most of these people that inherit homes are not professional landlords. They don't know what they're doing. They got fixed leaky toilets. They got tenants that are beating the house up. They're putting grow houses in this. They're going to want to get rid of it. And you're the one they're going to call if they don't have anybody else, family related or whatever. And you got to make sure that you're on top of these people all the time, like you do in a regular farm. When I was raised in this business in the 70s, that's how we were taught, farming. Okay? Farming was the way to go. And we used to do our deals all based from farming. Okay? So the program is we continue marketing to the heirs and owner right after final distribution. We offer to help them to rent it or refi it. Hey, Joe, you just closed final distribution. I just saw that. Fantastic. Congratulations. The house is now yours. Hey, you guys going to rent it out or refi it? You need any help on that? They may say, no, we're thinking about selling it, Gary. Great. When can we get together? I'd love to talk to you and show you what we can do. Are you interviewing agents? Well, no, we thought we were going to give it to you. You've done a great job, and why don't you come on over and we'll talk about it? Great. Yeah, we're going to interview because my brother-in-law, Joe, is an agent, and he wants to sell it. So, well, the chances of you getting that away from their brother-in-law, Joe, is slim. So we go to a different mode with that, and we'll ask them a bunch of questions, that, again, we'll go into when I break down this level even more, okay? And we keep going with our branding, okay, because they will see it if you're farming correctly. So as an example, heirs and owners, I told you, will want to cash out. Heirs stop paying rent. General public again, okay, trashes the house. Point is, they're motivated sellers at this time, and they're going to get out of that house. And hopefully, if you farm this right, you are going to get a shot, okay? We're not saying guaranteed you're going to get it, but you should if you've done a good job and followed up, because nobody else is at this time, okay? All right, so what can agent earns on level 5? Well, on level 5, you just do this as you normally would do on your regular business. Hey, Joe, you're no longer a probate. You got the house now. You're done with all this craziness. My normal fee is 2.5 to list a house, but I'll give it to you for 2 because we kind of have this relationship going. I'll give you the family rate, and we'll get it going. Or keep it at 2.5. Or whatever you want to do. If you got competition, whatever you need. Don't let somebody else take it away because they will do it for less than you. I'll take it for 1 if I have to, because I'm going to focus on getting that 2.5 on the sales side. Okay? All right? Or if nothing else, I don't sell it and I only got 1. Well, how many extra deals did I get? I got 2 buyers and a listing appointment by having open houses and people calling my sign. That's worth it to me. It didn't cost me any money, right? And I still made 1%. On a $500,000 house, I made $5,000. And maybe I picked up a buyer that I sold a $600,000 house to and made 2.5. So I made another 15 over there. Now I'm 20 grand off of this deal. And let's say I got a listing for a house for 300 because they're moving up. They didn't like this one, but they liked me, and I got 2% out of that. I picked up another 6. So you're talking about 25 grand on a house that you took it for 1%. That can happen, okay? That can happen, okay? So how much can I possibly earn? Well, look at it. No one can guarantee you what you are going to earn with anything that you're learning, okay? All we can tell you is what it has done for us and what it should be able to do for you, providing you're consistent, you understand the information, you follow up, you got great follow-up and people skills. Then there's certain assumptions that you should be able to do on a very conservative basis, and I keep this very conservative. So on the level 1 transactions, you should be able to do 1 a quarter. And if, let's say, on a $400,000 house, you're making 4%, so you're making 16 grand. If you do 1 a quarter, you're going to add 64 grand gross to your yearly production. And that right now is more than the majority of real estate agents make in the United States. Of the 2 million agents running around the United States, the majority of them make less than $60,000 a year. That alone is going to put you over them. And if you're already doing 30, 40, 50,000 a year, that's going to put you close to six figures. Okay? That's if you just do one a quarter to flip. But you also should be getting a listing for each of those four properties that you did. So there's four more transactions at 2% or 2.5 is going to give you somewhere around 10 grand. So there's another 40 grand, right? So, and then if you sell one of those listings yourself, because that's what we focus, that should pick you up another 2.5 or 12.5. So you should be somewhere in the vicinity of 116 to 120,000 on 9 transactions, but only on 4 properties. Now, does that sound good to you? It should. I hope so. And if it does, that's why you're here. Okay? So that's the amount of money you can make just there. But there's more to this, folks. Okay? There is more to this. And we're going to break this down as we go. But on level 2, you should do one of those double ends a quarter. And you're going to find that the double ends, level 2, is where you're going to be the most busiest with this off-market probate stuff, because you're not going to get the estate to take the flip deal. You're not going to be able to get the listing, but you're able to put a deal together because you'll know the magic number from the estate when they don't want your flip price. And then you find that buyer, and we'll show you when it's time of writing your offer and what we do when we're in escrow to find that buyer, and you double end that deal. So if you take that same $400,000 house and you double end it to a landlord, or you double end it to a retail buyer, and you're making 4 to 6, let's call it 4, there's an extra 64 grand a year. You can add that 64 grand to the 115, 120, and boom. Now where are you looking at? You're getting close to, dual six figures, right? And then if you add in listings on level 3, you should be able to do one a quarter there if you're doing this right. And then on farming, you should be able to do one a quarter. That's not a whole lot of business, but you can see why guys like myself, that's all we do, because we work all 5 levels. That's all we do. That's how we make multiple six figures. And we're not killing ourselves, working 70 hours a week, chasing the same properties and buyers around, selling carpets and drapes, okay? So that's going to sum up our first sessions. Remember, this is foundation only. I wanted to give you some numbers on possible earnings because everybody wants to know what this can do for them. Please keep in mind, I don't want to hear later on that Gary told me I can make multiple six figures. If I do his program, I did it, and I haven't made anything. Okay? Because that's not how this works. I wouldn't be here for 30 years still doing this, folks, if it didn't work. Okay? All right? It's usually going to be that you're not consistent. You're not following through right. You're not doing the system correctly. You do it for 2 weeks, you're out for a week. You don't really call. You send a flyer only. You're not working it. You're not working hard. To make that kind of money, six figures to multiple six figures, do you think it just comes easy? No, it don't. But you know something right now that 97% of the agents that you work with don't know. Okay? And how to go after this business. Today, still, after all these years that I've been doing probates and winning awards and being grand masters at Bay East because of probate, I still have agents that don't ask me, hey, Gary, will you show me? I've had a handful, okay, and I wouldn't even share my system up until 2000 because I thought everybody worked like I did, right? And I turned it on to a couple friends and they didn't do it, okay? They like that old traditional way. The traditional way will kill you because of the hours you have to put in. Most of the time it's a roller coaster ride. In today's real world, if you think you're going to be able to make enough money to buy rental properties and keep those for passive interests, I have another rude awakening for all of you guys that will be doing in a follow-up on that end about life after sales that you really need to know. But for right now, this foundation just opened your eyes, okay? So on the next one I'll be recording, We'll be talking about my presentation, or contacting the estate first, how to do that. My presentation when I sit down with the estate and talk about them looking at my offer to buy it, or me listing the property or whatever. And then we're going to talk about writing our offer and what you need to know about the probate contract and my all important addendum, which controls the deal for you. Okay? And I want to leave you again with this. This is foundation only. Listen to this while you're learning probate. I would take these 3 recordings that you are going to have. This is number 1. And I would listen to one of them a week. Put it in your car. Put it on a CD if you can, or on your phone, and listen to it in your car. Every week, once a week, as you're doing your probates and getting, trained and getting over that first deal, because your first deal is the hardest you're going to do. Don't quit like 90% of the people do on anything that they're learning before you have success. Have success. Don't cheapen the opportunity because you're getting this for free right now. There's a reason you're getting it for free. I was charging $1,500 for this training to agents. They value it to do one deal because I want to get their money back. Because when they did one deal with me, I gave them their $1,500 back. Now I'm going one step further. It's free because we're looking for more deals. I don't actively sell in the market no more. I semi-retired, like I told you, 2016. I just work with network agents like you. We do deals together. Okay? If I have 10 of you that are doing 3 deals a year with me, there's 30 transactions for me. I'm getting half of those. That's like 15 deals on my own, right? That's where I spend my time. And then plus I'm helping agents with wealth generation from their real estate business for life after sales. That's a different conversation later on. So anyway, okay, I thank you for your time. I'm sorry we had the technical problems on the live. This is live. It's just not live with you on the other end right now to ask me questions. So if you have questions, put them in email form. Send them to me all at once if you can, and I will answer those and get back to you, and we'll go on to good things. I'm going to try and get session 2 done later tonight or tomorrow. Session 3 Friday, and you'll have all these this week. So you're in the same week that we should have the live training going, and you'll be right on par. And then we'll reach out to you guys, and we'll have some follow-ups and other things that we're going to be doing. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for your time. I got you out of here in under 2 hours, just about 1 hour 50. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Happy holidays.